Join me as I take on making the easiest and most delicious chicken parmesan and pasta recipe that anyone can whip up, even if you're a total beginner. Today I want to share with you how to make fresh pasta along with some juicy, delicious, and cheesy chicken parmesan. These recipes are simple, they're easy to use, they only use a few ingredients, and anyone can make it regardless of your skill level. That is the fantastic part about this. So I hope you jump in the kitchen and follow along with me. So there's a few things that we should understand about our ingredients first and how they play a role in our pasta. First and foremost, you don't need to add olive oil. This step is completely optional. Secondly, if you're starting out, don't let people bully you in saying that you're not using the right flour or your dough will have the wrong texture. It is perfectly okay to use all-purpose flour. Simply, especially when you're starting out, all-purpose flour is cheap compared to the expense of 00 flour for much less flour. And if you're gonna mess up, wouldn't you rather mess up with a cheaper flour than a more high-end flour? They tell you to use 00 flour simply because of the texture of your pasta. The grain it's finer and it's smoother of a texture in your pasta. And finally, we need to know the 1-to-1 rule. Now, you'll hear plenty of things, and even the internet tell you that it's 1 egg to about 100 grams of flour, which is roughly a half a cup. And, well, I don't entirely like following that rule, simply because if you take a look in here, all of these eggs are not completely uniform in size. So, I like to use the rule of 1 cup of flour to 1 egg, simply because the flour will soak up all that extra egg and you don't need to add in any water or anything else. Now, there is a time, which we'll touch upon later, of how I break that rule in this recipe. You don't have to. But the other rule you need to follow along with the 1-to-1 is that applies per person. So if you're going to have 2 people, it's 2 cups of flour and 2 eggs. Now there's something else that you should know about pasta. There are 3 different types. There's the traditional type of pasta with the egg yolk, and the flour that we're going to be using today. The white pasta, which uses water instead of eggs, and egg yolk pasta, which uses nothing but the yolks and excludes the whites. For the pasta, I'm going to be using an egg, which would be 2 cups of flour, but like I said earlier, there's a time where I tend to break that. I will be adding in an extra egg. I simply like to do this to soak up all the extra flour in our dough. Now is the time to make our pasta dough finally. So what we need is a clean work surface. We need to have washed our hands. If you don't want to work on your work surface, you can do this in a stand mixer and throw all the ingredients in there. But for us, we're going to do it here on our work surface. We will start by making a mound of flour on there. So I said 2 cups. Now I just scooped in. It does not need to be a perfect 2 cups. It does not need to be perfect at all. The key here is to try to make a perfect mound so we can have as even of a well as possible. So what we do for this is I want to come in here and I kind of want to just push this up. Take our 3 fingers and we just do small little semicircles. And we'll get in, push it out as we go in. Now this side here is starting to get a little bit of thinness, so I just want to bring in some extra flour over there. And I'll scoop. And I'll scoop. And I want to make a pretty good sized well. If it gets a little bit thin, I want to just bring some extra flour onto that side. And next it's time to add our eggs. So I will just crack right into the center of our well. Now what I will do is I will add in a nice hefty pinch of salt. And if you're going to use the olive oil, I just want to add in a little sprinkle. Next, we will take our fork. I just want to try and break them egg yolks as best I can. And now what we're going to do is we're going to come in from the outside, scoop, and toss the flour in. Scoop, toss flour in. Scoop, toss flour in. And you want to be careful. You don't want to break any of these walls. If they break, it's not an issue. We have our bench scrape right here, and we'll just take it and we'll scoop it and we'll push it in and we'll just mix it that way. But for right now, just toss it in, and then once it's in, small little circles. Get to about here, I'm going to take my bench scrape. We will scrape that off, and I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to scoop all the flour in, and we're just going to take it and we're going to cut it in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my hands now. I washed my hands, but I forgot to take off my wedding ring. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scoop in and press. Lightly and gentle. If you don't, you're going to have a big cloud of flour come out at you. I'm going to press. I press in, scoop over, I press down and away. Now, if your dough ever turns out to seem like it's getting dry, just add in about a tablespoon of water at a time. Add a tablespoon, work it in, and then repeat it. So I'm going to knead this together, and I'll come right back when it becomes a dough. Press in, and we have that bounce back. It means the gluten has been worked, and it bounces back, and it rises. Now, if you stick your finger in there and it completely stays and it doesn't rise back up, it's not done yet. You gotta keep kneading it. Our dough is done. So what we're going to do now is let it rest. What you're going to do is either wrap it in plastic wrap, use a kitchen towel to cover it, or if you have it, use a bowl and just cover it, leave it on your countertop for roughly about 15 minutes to let the gluten rest. See you in a minute. Now that our dough has had its little cat nap and the gluten has relaxed, now it's time to roll out our dough. Now there are 3 ways we can go about doing this. The first way we can go about doing this requires a lot of effort and a lot of time to make sure we get everything flat and even. Second is a hand-cranked pasta machine, which, while it does do a lot of the work for you and gets it nice and even and flat, it does require a significant amount of effort to crank. And then the third method you can use is a KitchenAid stand mixer with an attachment, which is effortless, and all you have to do is feed it through the machine. I personally like to use this method as all I have to do is feed it in and then just feed it out. Regardless of which method you use, the following will be the same for any of them. So let's start by grabbing our pasta. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut off a small portion. The rest you will always keep covered when you're not using it. And we will grab some flour. Sprinkle your work surface. And then we just press our dough down into the flour. The flour will help the dough from sticking to our surface. I just want to flatten it out a little bit. Just like that. And if you're using a machine like this or the hand crank, you're going to open it up to its widest setting, and we're just going to run it through. And just like that, no hand cranking or anything. Just catch it on the other side and let it run. And now that we have it, now that we have our dough out, we're just going to go through the machine and lower this step by step, running the dough through each time. When you get down to about 6 or a 5, you want to start catching the dough when it comes out with the back of your hands. You want to use your knuckles. This will be because the dough is so thin and you don't want to puncture it. So by using the back of your knuckles and handling it gently as it runs through, you got it. And you can just take it out, put it in, run it through the machine again. You can flip it, you can roll it on the side of your hand like this if you want. And you just let it run through, gently pulling as it goes through to thin it out. And we're just gonna do that and repeat it until we're done, down to the size we want. For us today, I'm going to make linguine. I'm going to show how to cut it 2 different ways. So without any further ado, let me finish rolling out all this dough, and I'll see you in a second. When you get down to a 3 and a 4, you see as my knuckles start to poke through the dough. What we're going to do is take just a little dash of flour and flour our surface. This will prevent it from sticking. And we're just going to lay it flat down onto our table. If it's a little longer, don't worry. Just take a little extra flour, rub it on, fold it over. And then you're going to take this and you're going to cover it with a towel until you're done. And now it's time to cut. So I will show you the 2 different ways you can cut your pasta. The first of which is with this machine. I already switched it out and put the linguine cutter in. It's the same thing with the hand crank. You just flip it around and it has the cutter already attached to it. And then the second method will be with our knife. To cut pasta with your knife, we will take out our dough, our nice long strip. Now, you don't have to cut the ends if you want it flush. You can have it flush. I like to use my knife to measure, so I will just go here to here, and I'll use the tip. I'll make a little notch, and I will cut that. And I will cut that, and that will give us 3 sections of pasta dough. Now, to cut them, take a little bit of flour. Don't want it sticking. And we will take one edge, fold it over, take the other edge, fold it over. A little dash of flour, I don't want it sticking. Fold it over one last time. And then with our knives, we will cut the thickness of your pasta. Whatever thickness you choose, but just try to keep it even. And then just like that, you have your strips of pasta. Just take them and make sure they are floured, and you can just keep them in a little ball. Or if you would like, you can use one of these. This is a pasta drying rack, and you just take it and you hang it. And you let them dry. However, the method that I like to use is this machine. Again, it's quick, it's easy, and it's effortless. You just put it through, and look at that. Perfectly sized, already cut. Just give it a little toss in some flour to prevent it from sticking. And you have little nests. So I'm going to finish doing the rest of these, and I will see you in a second. Now I'll set all of our pasta aside, and I will move on to making our chicken parmesan, as fresh pasta only takes 3 to 5 minutes to cook. So for this, you're going to need a pound of skinless chicken breasts. Here I have mine already here. This has some fat on it. I'm just going to take my knife and give it a little trim, get rid of that. Now you have a few different ways that you can flatten this out. We can butterfly it, which is just cutting it halfway down the center, and then take some plastic wrap, and then we take a mallet and you just bash it until it's a nice even thickness. That is the key of what you want here. That nice even thickness will have a more even cook time when we go to fry it. But I like to get as much as I can out of it, so I'm just gonna cut fingers up and out of the way, right across. I'll pull that off, and that's fairly even. If a piece is too big for you, you can just cut it down the half, and you'll get 2 extra cutlets out of it. So, which I'll probably do with this next one. I'm gonna do this for the next one. I'll see you in a second. Once the chicken is broken down, I have already gone ahead and set up our stations. In the first bowl, we have just plain flour. The second bowl, we have 2 eggs whisked. And in the last bowl, we have some Italian breadcrumbs. In our egg mixture, we're going to go in a little healthy dose of Parmesan cheese. And in our flour, a healthy dose of Parmesan cheese. And we'll just take this, mix that, and the same for our egg. How we'll start is by taking our chicken, placing it in our flour, coating both sides, pressing it in, into our egg mixture. I have tongs, you can also use a fork. Just to flip this over, let this get into the egg yolk. We will take it out, let the rest drain off. Drain that excess. And into our breadcrumbs, I will just grab, toss, and press down. The rest of our mixture of breadcrumbs in. Lift it up, give it a little shake, place on the side, and we're going to repeat that for the rest of our cutlets. Now that we're over here by the stove, our oil is up to temperature. You don't need to do this, but I have a sheet pan here with a cookie rack. This will let the oil just drip down. You can just put a paper towel on a plate, and you'd be perfectly fine. I like when the oil drips down, and I like then to use a paper towel just to cover it. It will keep it slightly warm, but it's more importantly to take the oil off the top if there's any pools. So now that our oil is up, we're going to take our chicken cutlet and we're going to lay away from us. You never lay towards you for splashback. Just put it in and pop it. Now, for the size of this pan, I could get away with doing 2. You do not want to overcrowd the pan. And we will just let this cook until it starts to turn about golden brown. That's about 3 to 5 minutes. In the meantime, I have my water boiling. I have already added in my pasta sauce. I will turn that on to a low setting to let that start to warm up. And most importantly, our broiler is on for the last part. And then look at that. Put it on there. Cover it up. And then we'll just repeat for the rest of the cutlets. I will see you when they are done. So once the chicken is all done, it's time to start to make our chicken parm cutlets into the vision of what chicken parmesan is. You can either use the sheet pan that you let the chicken drip down, or you can use a separate. I'm going to be using a separate. We will place our cutlets on, however many you are going to use. I will then take our sauce and put a nice couple dollops on each cutlet. Next, we're going to take our Parmesan cheese and give it a sprinkle on each one. Just like that. Now, I am going to be using fresh mozzarella that's already been pre-sliced. It makes life easy. But if you want to use like a Sargento shredded, that is perfectly fine. Just take it and we will place a couple pieces on top of each cutlet. Now that these are all done, we're going to take them and pop them into the oven, and at the exact same time, we're going to take our pasta and throw our pasta in our boiling water, and this should all be melted and done by the time the pasta is all set, about 3 to 5 minutes. It's now time to assemble our masterpiece. So I've already gone ahead and added the sauce to the pasta. And as I've done that, I would pour a little bit of sauce in, stir it in, a little bit more sauce, stir it in. This creates a more even, efficient coat throughout your pasta. Our chicken is done. It is melted. It is gooey. I mean, just look at that. Assembling. We will grab some of our pasta, place it right in the center. I want to hit it with a little dash of Parmesan cheese. And then we're going to take 2 of our cutlets and we'll place one right there. And then we will take, I don't know, maybe this one. This cutlet. Oh, look at that. And place that one right there. And there you have it. When you take your first bite of this crispy, crunchy breadcrumb, giving way to a juicy, tender chicken, covered in a rich, flavorful pasta sauce, which I will leave a video description below that you can check out for when we made that in another video. And then we have it topped with a nice, melty, pullable, gooey, flavorful cheese. So if you're looking for a recipe that's sure to become a staple in your household, look no further. With a few simple steps, you can create a dish that's truly crave-worthy. And don't forget to leave a comment below with your own experiences, tips, tricks, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're looking for more delicious recipes like this one, be sure to check out my next video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Happy cooking. Ciao.